Yo, so we live, Coach. We a little delayed on the screen, but we finally was able to get Coach Henderson in the building. We got him in the studio, the social experiment. We're gonna have us a conversation. Just have a couple of different conversations. I'm gonna ask Coach some questions about his upbringing, some of his goals, his aspirations, the reason why he does the things that he does do, as well as how we can support him in his initiatives and his plans with the Erie High football team, and how we can be more active in some of the things he has going on. So first and foremost, Coach Andre, appreciate you for coming on, man. I was trying to get you on here when we first started doing this. I know you was real busy at the time, but was able to catch you in the off season. So I definitely appreciate you coming on here and being able to have a conversation with me. So thank you for that.
Appreciate you having me, brother.
Absolutely. And then first and foremost, so the first question I always ask people when they come on here was, why were you interested in coming on to the show and having a conversation with me? You'll need to speak into the mic a little bit if you don't
mind. I think it's good that, talking from being a head coach, I think it's good sometimes that we get out to the community, what we doing daily and what we got coming up with what our football program. Our kids is working their butts off, not only in the classroom, but in the weight room, just being dedicated young men to getting better. And I think using your platform to let some of the people out here in Erie County know and across Pennsylvania and all these other places know exactly what's going on day to day with our kids.
Absolutely.
It's not a lot of the negative that you hear every day. We actually got a lot of kids doing a lot of positive things, not only football program, basketball, track and field, and at Erie High, just period. So use this platform to let some of our people know exactly what's going on.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you for saying that, because I was one of those people. I'll admit that, even live, I ended up linking up with Miss Sumagala, and she took me through some of the schools of tour, but I was just so focused on some of the negative things that I was hearing, and some of the stuff that was on social media, that I just thought everything was all bad until I actually had the opportunity to tour some of the schools, see some of the programming that they had going on, specifically in Erie High. When you talk about the CTE program, and them trying to update they had putting the STEM lab in where the library used to be, and just even having different conversations with different teachers. What I am learning is, there are some people who are there who truly want to do what's right, who truly want to help, who truly want to have an impact on some of these young people's lives who attend these schools. So kudos to you for doing the job for as long as you have been doing it, for you staying in there through all the ups and through all of the downs, and hopefully things is going to turn around for you in the right direction. We was kind of having a conversation before we turned the cameras on about some of the things that you was doing as far as building your program. So would you be willing to kind of share some of that without giving away too much information?
Yeah, right now we going into year 5 as the head coach of Erie High football program, and where we started at a few years ago to where we at today is night and day different. And again, I'm talking about from the classroom experience with our kids to the weight room program that's brand new. We got a beautiful weight room facility that we didn't have at Erie High as long as I've been the head coach. So for our kids to see what's down there now, I mean, we talk about it daily. Take advantage. Make yourself better. But where the program is at today, I mean, I take my hat off to the coaching staff, the men who show up daily to work side by side with me to help make an impact in our kids' lives. And it's more than football. Go beyond the field with us. We give rides to and from practice. We help our kids homecoming time. We help our kids prom time. We do everything we can do to show our kids a different side of football, but what it takes to be successful. Right now, we currently have 4 boys traveling to Pittsburgh every weekend, working out with Whitfield kids.
Okay.
They made it on the Aaron Donald 5-on-5 team where they're going to be traveling and have the experience to, go and see talent that you normally wouldn't see around our area. And this is all part of the plan. This is all part of getting our kids to know it's more outside of Erie. It's more to just this. And we want to show you. So, again, it changed your whole perspective and mindset on how to go about your day-to-day operations at the school. When you wake up, how you handle your business, getting your work done on time, and putting the work in that we expect you to put in, and then putting the extra work to separate yourself from the rest. So again, very thankful for the staff we have. We implementing our spring program right now where we're working out. The staff is meeting weekly. We're breaking our top opponents down. And again, we want to get this program to where it's unmatched as far as winning games, the support from the community, the crowd at the games, the crowd at the away games. bringing an old alumni back. And I'm not just talking Strong Vincent SV in East, right? Or Strong Vincent East and Central. I'm talking about Academy.
Mm-hmm.
My parents went to Academy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm talking about Tech,
Right,
right? Central Tech before it was Central and Central Falcons and all that. We talking about just getting the family back. You talk about the alumni, and a lot of us, our history got erased, right? I'm trying to bring that back and keep everybody from these programs aware of what's going on today, and at the same time to let them know we need you to be a part of what we got going on.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It sounds like y'all building a program to where you're holding the young men accountable. You know what I mean? You're teaching them different lessons, and then also like surrounding them with other people who can benefit and impact them lives. But I want to ask you a question. Why did you decide? So you said this is year 5. 5 years ago, you decided to take this position. My question to you is, why did you decide to take this position, and why have you stayed for as long as you have?
Just being born and raised right here, knowing what it takes to get to the next level and the help you need. And I say it to our kids all the time. It's tough to navigate through these waters without the support and the help and the knowledge of people who've been there, right? It is tough. And I was one of those kids who had those experiences when I was going through the recruiting process. Wasn't a lot of help. It was kind of like, me and my mom taking visits, and she don't even know what kind of answers to ask them, what kind of questions to ask. She didn't know how to answer those questions that was being asked. So to go through that experience, kind of by ourselves, but learn what we needed to learn. I always said to myself, if I get an opportunity to pay it forward, that's the first thing I'm gonna do.
Absolutely.
So after playing them 4 years at Indiana University and being able to come home, I started coaching in the youth. At the same time, I was coaching in the middle school level, and I was trying to coach at the high school at the same time, because again, I felt like it wasn't about a check for me.
Right.
I want to make an impact.
Right.
I don't care what position it is.
Right.
Volunteer work, even with the background I had, it was just making an impact and trying to get our kids to understand what it's going to take to put yourself on a pathway to be successful.
And I'm glad you said that too. When you talk about like making an impact and it not being about the check, and I'm gonna come back to the football talk, but like I'm glad that you mentioned that, because like that's something that I speak on, and I'm actively working to try to have a better and a stronger impact. It's been times where I've reached out to you. It's been times where you've allowed me to assist you and allowed me to come on board. So when you talk about the impact, and then when you talk about the influence based on your experiences and like some of the things that you were lacking, what role do you feel as, and I'm just going to keep it focused on men for right now, what role do you feel like other men in the Erie community should play with as far as the culture that you're trying to create and trying to develop these young men to be, what you're creating?
The role, the help we need, right? Which some men around our community do it.
Right.
That's why I got a lot of respect for Roosevelt Benjamin. He's a man, got great respect all around the city. And when Rose see troubled kids and troubled teams who should be playing actively a sport, whether it's football or basketball, he try to pour into them. Rose was the first one that brought me 3 kids off the street.
Okay.
And said, you need them.
Okay.
And they need to be under your wing.
Okay. If you watch it, Mr. Benjamin, shout out to you. Appreciate that.
So, and I took those kids in, and we got them on the team. And again, it wasn't easy because of what they've been through, their background, and what they were going through, so it was a battle. But after working with them that whole fall, summer, fall, and again, pouring life into them,
right,
showing them love,
right,
recognizing them for the things that they're accomplishing, stuff that our kids don't get. They don't hear that stuff too much, right?
Right.
But being the staff and the coaches to do that, it made a difference. And we've seen kids change their ways. I want to bring up one, Nasir Smith.
Yeah. I remember him.
He was one of those kids, and he got a tough upbringing, a tough background. And Nasir is one of what we call an IEP kid.
Okay.
And a lot of times we want to make excuses for IEP kids and limit on what they can do. I started that study hall program with a few other great men. Mr. Rasan Powell was one. And we started with this group of seniors that just graduated. And to watch Nasir go from where he was at first year to the last 3 years, I mean, this dude won our Student Athlete of the Year award.
Okay.
Academy award. I mean, we watch kids, and I use them as an example all the time when we want to make excuses on disabilities and things like that. I watch a kid who ain't make no excuses but just work his butt off and change his grades from a 1.0 to a 3.3 career grade point average, So when you talk about these kids can't do that. We
Right.
watched it.
Right.
We watched him put in the work.
Absolutely.
And he wanted to. And today he's going to go where he want to go to, probably for free, academic with his grants and stuff. So you see it, right?
Right.
So in the community, the men, what we lack right now is fathers.
Mm-hmm.
But what we need is more men in the community to do what Ro did.
Mm-hmm.
When you see a trouble kid and you know he's a trouble kid and you know him and his family real well and you know he should be active, grab him.
Right.
Give him a conversation.
Right.
And then get him to where he belongs.
Okay. So then let me ask you a question about that. And I'm glad that we spoke to that. We were speaking to that specifically because with you working in the school and with you coaching some of these young men, there are a lot of bias and there are a lot of stereotypes to where people feel like, well, you can't tell these kids anything. You can't, they're going to snap or they don't want to hear what you got to say. But seeing from you've been being there for 5 years, and that's just at Erie High, because I know you've been coaching since, again, Little Gritters and all of that stuff. So like, what type of advice or what type of tips would you give to people who have those thoughts, who have those feelings or opinions about like some of our young folks, about some of our students? Like when they say, oh, he's not going to get it or he doesn't comprehend or it's not clicking, like what would you say to people? How would you encourage people to not be intimidated to speak to some of the young people who are having some issues?
I think that's the main thing. I said it earlier. Our kids don't get recognized enough for nothing that they do, right? So what I do, and it's daily, and I love what I do. I love being able to pour into our kids. But our interventions, I pour life into them.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to what's going on in their life.
Mm-hmm.
I give them that listen ear that they're looking for. And then I kind of talk to them a little bit about my experiences.
Okay.
And our experiences ain't too different, right?
Right.
So when they sit back and hear what I say, in response to their question, it kind of dawn on them and they sit back and say, I get it, coach.
Right.
I know what I got to do.
Right.
So we talk about goals a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about academic goals. We talk about behavior goals. And we talk about attendance. And part of what I do with them is check in with them weekly, some daily,
right,
to make sure they stand on track. And I tell them, my job is to keep you on track. And
right,
when you ain't on track, we'll have this meeting.
Right.
But those are the goals we talk about, and I pour that in them. And once they set those goals,
mm-hmm,
now everything changed for them.
Right. Right.
The first conversation, it might be, I don't have no goals.
Right.
Right. And we'll start with short-term goals.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just focus on this quarter. It don't got to be 4 years from now. It don't got to be what you want to be once you've grown.
Right.
Let's just focus on this third quarter.
Right.
What we want to accomplish.
Right.
What grades do you want?
Okay.
And when I check your grades and I see that it ain't there, well, I'll sit you down.
Right.
I'll say, look, man, let's do what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Let's focus more.
Absolutely.
Let's put our effort and energy back in what we trying to accomplish. And let's be classroom leaders.
I appreciate that. Listen, man, I appreciate that a lot. And again, just because I was in a couple of schools the other day having some conversations with some of the students, and those were some of the things that I spoke about. And like, I always try to encourage other people to do some of those things. If you all get your clearances or whatever the case may be, see what you can do to volunteer. And again, I'm going to ask you, because I know that you work inside of the school and then you also work with these young men after school hours. Like, how important do you think it is for people who don't work in the school to actually come in and volunteer, show their face and show a presence, show some type of care? Do you feel like that's something that would benefit what your plans are moving forward?
I think overall it can help the district, because a lot of our kids got a lot of great respect for, like I mentioned, Ro Benjamin. I could mention Little John Blanks, and these men on different sides of the town, but got a lot of great respect. And when they talk to our youth listen, and so for them to see a Little John in the hallway, ain't nobody going to be late. They have too much respect for him.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So they going to go and do what they need to do.
Right.
Whereas, so seeing that in the hallways, and we see it right now on the buses, we got Mr. Tick and the Booger T, and they on our buses every day.
Okay.
But we haven't had any incidents.
Okay.
So you see when the support is there and people willing to help make an impact,
right,
you can see the change.
Right.
So just think we went from issues on buses almost daily to no issues on buses at all.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And I seen Mr. Tavon Taylor. He was pumping that out too over at the Erie Booker T. Washington Center. So I'm not exactly sure what role he plays in that, but I know he's played a major role within the community, inspiring the youth and helping people and stuff like that. So kudos to him. And then another thing that I've been seeing too is so what I'm starting to notice now, and I'm not sure if it's because I'm following these pages on social media or not, but there are a lot more organizations and a lot more people who are paying attention to Erie High. They're putting more focus. I think I seen somebody had like a beer or something like that for Erie High. So like, even that, outside of just the football team, like how important, or I don't want to say how important it is, but like what more support do we need from the community? Because I've said this to people before. Like, I feel like some of these diners should have like a Royal Burger or something. Like, I feel like the students should be in the city of Erie and see a Royals flag at Dave Hallman. You know what I mean? And that kind of feel empower them. So do you agree with that? And if that's if you do agree with that, like where do you think would be some places that should be soliciting Erie High that the kids would see, notice, and feel empowered?
I do agree with that, and it's something you might have touched base on a few years ago. Just walking into businesses and let them know what we about, what we got going on, and the type of help we might possibly need.
Mm-hmm.
I think all our inner city businesses can benefit by showing and represent Erie High, because our kids come in the stores and they spend money. Our families, parents spend money, so to walk in that store and to see something like that hanging up, it's like, okay, this is home. Everybody around here is supporting us, right?
Absolutely.
So that might change a kid mindset who's on the edge of making a decision he shouldn't be making. I'm going to do something. I just walk in this store and here's be respectful, be responsible, be resilient.
Right.
Royals.
Right.
And now click.
Right.
And they make the decision to do the right thing. So I think it's very important for community businesses to show support.
Absolutely. I agree with that too, and I wish that it was a way or an opportunity that we can like kind of put that out there. And I feel hopefully, for the people who are watching and the people who will be watching, who are some local business owners, I hope that people reach out to you. You know what I mean, and ask, how can I support you? If it's donations, if it's helping with trips, buying snacks where you guys are working out and stuff like that. Like that's something that I would like to see happen, and I feel like more people need to be pushing that because it is important. And I definitely like when you play college football. Or you know what I mean? When you travel and you go to some of those towns and you see like those towns are like football towns, or those towns kind of like embrace the team. I feel like with Erie High being the only inner city high school that like all the businesses should be having something purple and gold somewhere, something royal somewhere. There should be a poster of a football player, a poster of a basketball player in all of these local businesses. And like, I don't want to be putting my ideas out there because I'm not in the position or the role that you are. And that's why I'm glad you came on, so I can ask you some of these questions, because I don't want to misspeak. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be speaking for things that maybe you do not need, so I'm glad that you were able to answer that question and kind of share that. But then even that, like, so then let me ask you, like, because I remember when you were in high school and it was like when y'all went to Strong Vincent, man, like y'all had the city on smash, man. Y'all had like the newspaper. They was always talking about Strong Vincent. Now games was always packed. Like I remember Miss Gussie used to be out there with her cowbell, and like it was like the crowd was crazy. Everybody wanted to wear black and red. Everybody wanted to kind of, if you can kind of go back there to that, like what was that like for you when you were a high school athlete and knew and realized that everywhere I went, everybody knew who I was because I played for Strong Vincent and we were trying to get us a championship?
It meant so much to us, at Strong Vincent High School. What I would say is what we're trying to do now. We started things, our coaching staff at the time started things that changed our lives forever, and those was coaches that was coming over to Bay City to recruit us as kids. And that right there was showing love, where you got coaches where they ain't showing up. But that transition to us wanting to work harder and put the work in. And like we tell the kids today, you work hard, things start to change, right? When you have success, things start to change. And at Strong Vincent, we put the work in. We started to be successful, not only on the field. I was a two-sport athlete. I played under Coach Shannon Pulliam, and I'm very excited that he's back up here, coaching at Erie High. But basketball too. It was just a different mentality, and that's the same mentality we're trying to insert today with our kids.
Right.
But we competed.
Absolutely.
We competed hard, you know. So when it was time to go against another opponent and not taking nothing from nobody, but we had the best of the best right there at one school. So when it was time to go against somebody, if you practice how you're supposed to, like they say, practice, play like you practice. When it was game day, it was easy.
Right.
It would just do your job,
right.
But the success, winning those games, what did it do to the school? It just changed the whole landscape of things, And like you said, the support was there. Pep rallies was different. Our principals showed different support and love. The news, like you said, the news outlets showed different support and love.
Right.
And once we got that taste, we wanted more. And that's why even after we graduated, Coach Kashon kept getting good teams.
Right.
Because it was the foundation was laid.
Right.
When you get here, this is what you got to do to be successful.
Right.
And as long as you do that, the success will come.
Absolutely. And then it's interesting to see, like, when I be looking on your sidelines, when I be seeing some of your old coaches from when you was playing football, I'm like, yo, that's like, this is dope for real. You know what I mean? To be able to see like them coming back to help you coach and then for y'all to be trying to like implement and instill some of those principles, it's definitely a great thing to see. And I'm not going. I went to Central. You know, we were terrible. Like we wasn't winning no game. I only played my freshman year and my senior year, but I'm like, I lived on Woodlawn at the time going to Central, and I'm like, I'm trying. How do I get the Strong Vincent? Like I think everybody in the city kind of at one point in time wanted to either go play for Strong Vincent or go play for Prep. So like for you coming from that and you being a part of that, and then you even being able to like pull some of your coaches with you, like that's something that's amazing. And then something that I speak to, and I'm glad that you have the coaches who support you. But this is also something that I speak to because I feel like we from the same age group,
Yes,
same generation. So like when we were growing up, there were men in the community who actually cared. You know what I mean? We talking like we had basketball leagues from the JFK playing the Booker T,
Yes,
playing the MLK and stuff like that. You know, we had a lot of different people running those programs. And when people be like, what do you think the issue is? What I feel like, and I feel like I can say this to you because you aren't one of those people, is a lot of us benefited from the services of these good men within the community. And I believe we took it for granted, and we're not doing the things that they were doing for us.
We reciprocating.
And we're seeing how that is impacting our kids, because when I was at school, it was like frowned upon to not have higher than a 3.0.
Yeah.
It was frowned upon to be skipping class. It was frowned upon to like, if you ain't at school, what are you doing? Like, what, you know what I mean? So then, and it was a lot of us who kind of like fell in that realm of students. And I've had conversation with different guys like, yo, why don't you coach? And like, I don't got the time, or I don't got the patience, or I don't got the energy, but like somebody did that for us. So like, if you had to speak to that without putting anybody down, like what's your thoughts or your opinions on the people who aren't giving what they took and understanding how it's impacting our young men, because you're actually right there with them?
I don't know if it's happening already, but we could start with just the community centers having meetings on what the impact was back then and what it is today. And like you said, when we were young growing up, my mom ain't have to tell me to get out of the house. I was running over to the Booker T to do homework. We had a computer room. Once we got done with that stuff, we could play sports. But that was it. It was like being at school. But now this is the fun portion of it, right?
Right.
We got our education out of the day early,
right?
7:30 to 3. Now we go get a little. This is recess.
And who was over there? Jerry was over there. Right?
We had Jerry Thompson. Jerry Thompson is one of the best.
Yeah.
Actually, Jerry lived out over in the Harrisburg area, and last time he was in Erie, he came right down to visit me, and that's how important it is.
Right.
Because he made an impact in my life. He helped shape me into the man I am today. And when he had the opportunity to move out of the city to better his family, he did that. But the first second he came back to the city, he reached out to the same kids who he helped raise up, and he stopped by my house. He got to meet my kids, my wife.
You know, that's what's up. So like when you say like Jerry, because I remember when we moved on Woodlawn, I was going to the JFK, and Larry Meredith was running a lot of stuff over there. I'm not exactly sure who was at the MLK Center running that as far as their sports teams, but I know they had a sport, and it was like rival, you know what I mean? And
across
then
the board,
growing up to Trinity Center, we didn't play basketball, but Eddie Martin was over there. So, you know, then we have Mr. Horton. So there were men who were in our community, not to cut you off, and I want you to go back to that, but just like, I want you to kind of expand on that a little bit. Javon said in the comments, we the new leaders, it's our return. And I feel like a lot of us don't recognize that, don't understand that, or a lot of us are doing the work so in so many different silos that we're not realizing that if we start congregating and pulling this all together, that it can be great. But you know, back to the people in the community, like if you want to speak a little bit more about that, you said you was able to meet with Jerry, but what were your experiences like in the Booker T. Washington or the Erie one?
I'm gonna tell you what it was, and it's like what I tell the kids today. If I know your parents, and I don't have to know your parents, my job is to hold you to a higher standard, right? And that's what Jerry did. When we got to the Booker T, it was what homework you got.
Right.
Before you touch that ball, you better go get it done.
Right.
You know, it wasn't just a freelance. And again, that's what helped shape a lot of us, because we all grew up under that umbrella. I just had a picture sent to my phone last week of, you know, me being a 12-year-old boy. In the picture at the Booker T, we had 4 basketball teams, 2 boys and 2 girls. And to look at this picture and see 40 to 50 kids and what that meant to us.
Right.
And to think of today and what's happening, and, you know, our kids not filling up our youth centers. Taking advantage of what you could, you know, to help that could possibly put you on a different pathway of success. It hurts, you know, because again, we got a lot of people, and I don't want to, you know, start dropping names on it, but it's a lot of success stories, and it all started at these youth centers.
Absolutely.
It all started from the adults who was working in those youth centers who pushed us.
Right. Like even as you're talking, like I'm having some thoughts and some feelings, because I remember even like my grandmother, they stayed on East 16th Street, you know, and I remember we used to I used to be walking, chasing after Pierre, and then we'd be going to the Boys and Girls Club. But what we always did when that Burger King, we used to always, everybody had their own cup. You know what I mean? We'd go in the back door of Burger King, get us some pop or whatever the case may be. But I remember I learned how to swim at the Boys and Girls Club. I used to be down there with Smurf, hanging with Smurf and them. You know, and then when I spent more time on East 16th Street, Sharks and Minnows was a big thing at the Booker T. Washington Center or the Erie One. You know, we'd be in that pool. So like when I think about the community centers and then talking to another person who kind of came from these environments, like I understand the impact that it had on my life. I understand how the men who were overseeing those organizations, and this is not to take away from any women because they were supported by a lot of women, but the men who were overseeing those centers, they actually cared about us. Our parents sent us there, you know what I mean, for us to be involved and get engaged. And Jovan said, parents don't send their kids to those centers anymore. Numbers are extremely low at these centers. Right. I feel you there, bro. And that's why, like, as far as the conversation, like, I feel like we as men need to do more, and then even being able to hold one another accountable, because I may seem like I'm well put together, but I have some areas that I need to be addressing. I need to be having conversations with different people who can help me and who can assist me. And I feel like that may stand in the way as well. So I'm going to ask you again, because you are so active with the young people in the school, on the field, off the field, outside of that, like, why do you think we as adult men aren't stepping up to fill these roles that were left for us? If you had to give an opinion.
I feel like because, you know, life is life and for everybody, and a lot of people ain't where they want to be. So it take away from, you know, them wanting to help like they would be helping.
Okay.
You know, a lot of us still struggle with being a father, you know, and what you'll hear, and you'll hear this in the Black community. And I wish we grew over and beyond and past this, but you know, you'll hear things like, you know, when you ain't taking care of your kids, but you helping other kids, you ain't taking care of yours, but you taking care of them. You know, you'll hear that stuff, and it'll touch the man, and it'll scar him. And you know, that right there stopped men from wanting to make the impact that we had when we were growing up.
Okay,
because you know they got a baby mom, and it's like, well, you know, come get your kid, but you over there with those kids putting in all that hour, you ain't missing any practice. You trying to, you know, and it's like, I'm trying to make an impact in the community. Get my kid over here with me. But when you think of the successful kids right now,
right,
a lot of our kids have that 2-parent household. That is success. You know, and you know, I sit back and have these conversations with people, and we break the scenarios down of different kids and different households and what it might be missing.
Right.
And a lot of it is that father figure.
Okay.
And I brought it up the other day. If we can start, you know, and I'm gonna say it right now live, you know, on social media. If we could start meeting to put something together to help try to save some of these lives, it matters. You know, and the impact will be now as opposed to 2-3 years from now, right? If we put our mind together as adults and say, look, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna get back in our community centers. We're gonna take back over our streets. We're gonna get our kids back active. We're gonna start teaching them how to write cursive again, right?
Right.
Because this stuff can happen when they with us,
right?
And not so much at school, right?
Right.
We're gonna start teaching them how to put a resume together,
right?
So you hearing this young again, right?
Listen,
and now we're gonna watch you work,
right?
You know?
Right.
So I think that's what our kids need to hear again, and I wish we can start this men group, and I don't care what the name might be.
Listen, bro. I mean,
put the work
I know
in.
it's people, other people working on stuff. You know what I mean? A lot of us got things going, but what I would like to do, and something that we working on, like I said, with the Men Building Men, is legitimately for that. Like, it's not to like tell people what they need to be doing or how to run or organize another program, but it's more of a, we as men, I feel like we need to be having conversations to where we can kind of like be vulnerable. You know what I mean? And get some advice, not to sit there and cry or not to sit there and be prodded or picked apart, but like, we legitimately need to have some conversations, because there are areas you stronger than I'm weak in. There are areas that I'm stronger than you weak in. If we can kind of put it together, that'll benefit so much. But then also, like, another thing that I do see within the Erie community, and I'm guilty of it myself. So a lot of us will have our own things or our own group of people, and we'll see somebody that's doing something similar to us or doing something kind of a little different from what we're doing. So we'll not associate with them, or we will not
support it.
Yeah, I don't want to say support it, but I guess I would say involve ourselves with it. So, because support is so many different ways. So you can share something, like something, consider that support. But like, there are so many different organizations or so many different men who are doing so many different things, but a lot of us don't sit down and have a conversation and say, hey, listen, bro, I bust kids, you train kids. Let me bust your kids to the training facility, and you start training my kids. Let our kids see us kind of dealing with one another on a on a personal level or even on a level of collaboration to where they can kind of start understanding. So I guess my question to you is, why do you think that so many of us have a difficult time working with one another?
I think because all our stuff ain't together,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And the second we see somebody doing something, as opposed to supporting it, like you said, the feeling you get, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to use this word, but it become hate, right?
Mm-hmm.
He doing it. I can't support that. I'm not hating, but I'm hating.
Right.
Right.
That's what it is. But yeah,
we got to get over that.
Right.
As men,
Right.
we got to get over that. Right.
Right.
I was talking to somebody 2 weeks ago after our banquet, you know, and I'm trying to get this dad to help take another kid to a college visit,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we were talking about that, and just to hear how the parent felt, right, about things from the past, it kind of hurt my heart, because I'm saying, man, we adults now.
Right.
We trying to make impact in kids' lives, and we don't want to think different because of something that happened back in 1998.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we're adults.
Right.
We evolved beyond that. Let's stick together, you
Right.
know, and let's figure
Right.
out a way to put something together to help our kids, because it goes back to, like I said, our kids can't navigate through this.
Right.
It's a lot tougher than we think. It get harder and harder each year, and they need help.
Absolutely.
So as opposed to hating,
Mm-hmm.
not want to be supportive,
Right.
we got to do it.
Absolutely.
I take my hat off to a few men, even back community business owners and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Ash Watts.
Okay.
We all know who Ash Watts is.
Right.
Barb's
Market.
Barb's Market.
On
right?
26 and what street is that?
On West 26th
West
Street,
26th
right
Street,
off
right.
Raspberry,
Yeah,
or one of those.
We gotta shout it out. We had the address. We'll plug it in there for you, bro. But we'll make sure y'all go to Barb's Market, Ash Watts.
Right. But Ash was a guy who just reached out to me in like my second, third year as a head coach,
Mm-hmm.
and said, on your away games, I'm gonna supply you with sandwiches.
Okay.
And he did it.
Right.
And he followed up and did it.
Right.
D Roberts, that's my first cousin. He's another one who's very supportive of the
Right.
program.
Right.
You know, who don't mind coming through. So right now, like you said earlier, I'm trying to figure out a way for us to pay it back to these
Mm-hmm.
businesses that have supported us, and at the same time get the other businesses to understand why we asking for the support.
Right.
It wouldn't be, I mean, I wouldn't want another feeling like when you think of Mill Creek, right?
Right.
On a Friday, it's like they town shut down.
Literally.
And they
for a
very
McDowell
supportive,
game.
right?
Yes.
They out there, right? That's how we want it now. And that's how it was when we played at Strong Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
Those communities, those businesses in the community, it's like they shut down.
Right.
And now we got 7,500 fans
Right.
here to support Strong Vincent.
Absolutely.
I think those days are very near.
Uh-huh.
And right now, what I'm asking for from the men in the community
Okay.
is, when you seeing a nephew or a cousin or a friend's son that's talented,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's football, whether it's basketball, whether it's track and field, whether it's wrestling, let's go wrap our arm around them.
Exactly.
And let's talk some life into them.
Exactly.
And let's get them back active.
Exactly.
Because the second we could get them doing that, then we put them on a pathway to be successful.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I ran into a young man in a barber shop. I ain't gonna say his name. You know what I mean? But he used to be like, I remember him as a kid. I'm like, this kid's going to the NFL, man. He's a man child. You know,
Right, yes.
We having a conversation. He's like, yeah, I ain't been on the field, but I'm gonna get back on there or whatever. You know, I'm like, oh man, I told him like I had high hopes for you. I want to see you back out there. I'm gonna hold you to that. He said he's gonna get on the court. Then like I told him like, yeah, and your pops, man, your pops love you to death, man. You know, I know things might not be what you want them to be or what you think that they are, but I've seen your dad go the hardest for you, young man, and
Yes.
you need to make sure that you acknowledge that for real. I mean, he smiled and he embraced it, and I honestly think I seen him on the basketball court for Erie High. Again, I ain't gonna say, I'll ask you about it later on when we get off, but yeah, I spoke to him, and I try to do that often. Like when I see young people, even if you know what's going on, young man, how you doing, or whatever the case may be, because I knew what it was like for me growing up and having people acknowledge me for some of the things that I did, even if it was like some of my uncles, like I didn't score touchdowns, I was on the line, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but you
yeah,
get some
yep,
tackles, or you
yep.
get a sack, or you cause a fumble, and it's like, oh, hey, see you, or you know, they hear your name on the intercom. Like it used to be crazy because people would be on 24th Street, like, yeah, I heard your name over the joint, you must have did something. And I think that's important for us to pour into our young people. But again, like back to what you said, like us as men, like we need to do better, like myself included. When I speak like this, I don't exclude myself from any conversation, because again, I'm not flawless. I've extended my hand to different people to try to have conversations to build on things, and I feel like we've made some positive progress. And that's another reason why I wanted to get the social experiment going again, because the last time we ran, I think I interviewed like 30 to 35 men in like a month and a half span. And the goal was for us to highlight some of these men so people knew who was doing what in the community. Because another thing that I realized about men who do good work is they don't speak about it.
Yeah.
And I've had conversations with people like, listen, and I was telling the kids the other day, people aren't going to know who you are until you tell them. They're going to believe who you are until you show them.
Yeah.
So a lot of us will be like, I'm just doing good work because this is what God called me to do. And I'm not going to brag about myself. But like, if you're not bragging about what you're doing, or if you're not telling me how I can help you, how am I supposed to know? And I want to know your take on that. Like, what's your thoughts as far as like people speaking openly about the good services that they're offering, even if it's work related or if it's community service? Do you feel like more people should be saying, hey, I just helped 20 kids for a ride to Erie High? Or do you feel like people should just be quiet and just let God give them the miracle?
I think it should be known.
Okay.
Because the more know, the more, it's like we talk about when we talk about the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Some kids straddle that fence, right? They straddle that line. They got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Same with adults. But if you can see me doing it and say, come on, brother, I got your back, right? Look, that lean on me.
Mm-hmm.
We all need somebody to lean on, right? You see it. And now we come together. That's the impact.
Right.
That's the impact. So I would say, don't sit back.
Right.
When you see somebody doing positive and it's on your heart, you want to do this, go sit down and talk with them.
Right.
And figure out a plan to help implement what y'all want to do together. And let's do it.
Right.
It only hurt when we don't do it.
Right.
And it don't just hurt us as a man. It hurt our youth.
Absolutely.
It hurt our youth. So
absolutely. That's crazy. Marcus, go ahead. What you about to say?
I would say, don't not go sit down and have that conversation.
Right.
Right. Let's figure out how we could work together.
Right.
To make it work for our youth. Absolutely.
Yeah, Marcus Paisley in the comments, he said, yep, we just talked about that. D said, correct, I'm guilty of that. And this is the example that I gave to him, right? So me and Marcus, we were sitting there, we building, we having a conversation about different things. And like Marcus has been getting the young people dressed for the prom for a long time, right? He's been doing this for quite some time, like taking them, paying for it. He get fresh. You know what I mean? So I'm like, bro, like, how often do you do that? Like, how many kids? And he was like, oh, I really don't like to talk about it or whatever. So then I'm like, hit him with this question. I said, how many Super Bowl rings do Tom Brady got? He answered it. And then I'm like, I asked somebody else, like, who's your favorite, LeBron or Mike? And somebody, because it was a different conversation. And I said, if you were to say Mike and I was to say LeBron, me and you would go back and forth and we would argue about their stats.
Right, yeah.
You would say this, he did X amount. But if I were to ask you, bro, how many kids did you get dressed for prom over the course of the last 5 years? It's more of a, I really don't want to talk about. Like, I feel like when we're doing good things, like, I feel like my sport is community engagement.
Yes.
My sport is community advocacy. I want to be the GOAT at that. So when I'm doing good things, these are my statistics. I've served X amount of people. I've been to the shelter. I've helped kids do this. I've gave people rides. And I speak about those things. And then also a reason why I speak about them is because I feel like if somebody has a problem with me doing that, you have to outdo me to shut me up.
Yeah.
The only way that you're going to be better than me is to be better than me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right, so like, I keep my statistics as far as the things that I do. But, sometimes you see on social media, it's frowned upon. Oh, if you're going to do something, it should be from the heart and you shouldn't share it. But like, also, I just look at it like, again, because we're speaking about men and we speaking to men, like, if us as men, if me and you can sit here and argue about you a Cowboys fan, right?
Broncos
fan. My fault. You're a Broncos fan. I'm a 49ers fan. But I thought you was a Cowboys, because if I was sitting with a Cowboys fan, we could go back and forth about the history, who won the last couple games, the Super Bowls, all of that. And we argue to the point, like, yeah, you know what?
Right.
But then if I'm like, bro, why you ain't out there helping Drake coach? Oh, don't ask me that. Or how dare you ask? I was helping him and you ain't see me. No, and if I speak about it, speak it up, because then somebody else might want to do it. So like, when it comes to statistics, you kind of said it a little bit, but I wanted to kind of emphasize. Look at that. There you go. Last 5 years, 75 kids for prom and homecoming. See, sometimes you got to poke the bear a little bit to get him to come out. We see you, bro.
Shout out to Marcus.
Absolutely.
Mark was in the building, and I'm gonna tell you something about Marcus. He in the building, and the role he play is pivotal. Kids run up to Marcus like they run up to me. Our student body actually just voted him like staff member of the year.
Yeah.
Impact he make while he in the building.
That's what's up.
And again, we tell the kids, it ain't just about knowing your family member, right? Like I said, our job is to hold every kid to a higher standard because we want what's best for you. And to work with Marcus and to see him getting kids dressed for homecoming, getting kids dressed for prom, out of the kindness of his heart, right? It do need to be talked about
Absolutely.
more. And to be honest, if it is, he might get more money to where that goes to 100 kids a year.
Absolutely.
Because it's needed in our community. A lot of our parents don't have the funding to get our kids dressed up for those events. And Mark will tell you firsthand, you'll talk to some kids and you'll ask them, are you going to homecoming? Are you going to prom? Nope. And it's a symbol because they don't know if they can get dressed. If the family gonna have the funding to send them with a nice suit on, right? Get the daughter a nice dress. And what he doing is impacted a lot.
Absolutely is.
And the kids, they show the love back to him.
Absolutely.
So again, shout out to Marcus.
Shout out to Marcus.
A lot of love and respect for what you're doing.
That's what I want him to
do it. But I think it do need to be heard.
Thank you, man. We need you bragging about that, bro. We need you talking about that. We need to get you some sponsorship. Isaac Baker just moved. I know he said that the men's warehouse be having his back. We need the barbers on deck with him, the braiders, the stylists, and all of that. So when these kids want to go to prom and they can't afford it, we know who to call. You know what I mean? The parents know who to call. Oh, Marcus got the program. And when people have clothes or outdated suit, I don't want to say put some money in some outdated stuff, but when people have stuff that, okay, we got a surplus, I know a guy. Let's call Mark. He need to be linked up with Primo Tailoring. They do all the tailoring. It's a new tailoring spot over. Like, I feel like any local business that is making money in the city of Erie, Pennsylvania, off people who live here should be supporting our kids and legitimately giving back to those schools. If it's we're gonna keep it at Erie High because that's where we at. But like, I feel like local businesses should be offering some type of percentage because we donate to so many different things. We'll donate to the unhoused population. We'll donate to people with different diseases and cancers like that. But I don't think a lot of people understand and realize that, like, when you say our kids, the youth is the future. Now that I'm older, I understand that.
And it's different things, right? Like, for an example, my first year in college, and I can honestly say this, and I didn't think how many of our youth kids probably got this issue today. We was traveling to an away game, and I'll never forget the Thursday night. Our coach said, "If you don't have that jacket and tie on, you ain't making that trip."
I already know where you're going. Go ahead.
I went to beat myself up because I didn't own a jacket. I didn't own a tie. So that hit different. And by Marcus doing what he's doing and he getting out there, I'm quite sure it's probably one or two other men around here, or even women that's doing the same thing and not speaking up. Well, now we might have us a board. And now, like I said, that's going from 100 kids to 300 kids. Now parents ain't stressed out. Now kids is planning 2-3 months in ahead on going to these events because I know I'm gonna be okay.
Exactly.
So, again, I think it need to be out there for other people who's doing this and ain't saying nothing. We can come together. Let's team up.
Absolutely.
And I think all this need to be about teaming up.
Absolutely.
And saving our community and saving our youth.
And going back to the comments, she has shout out. She said shout out to Cannon for Bobble and basketball. I've been seeing a lot of different people talk about that. I seen Genovia has shared something on social media. And then it's interesting. This is a lady by the name of Carmen. She had reached out to me a while ago about that, like telling me he had that going on. Goes back to checking on his family's parents. Absolutely. Yeah, no. So, it's there are a lot of people who are doing a lot of things. And then it's a lot of us. What's interesting, even going back to the comment about, the dads and all of that, like, there are people who are involved with other people's kids who could be like, yo, bro, let me holler at you about your child. Like, if there is a strained relationship with the mother of the kids, like, if you the coach, you know what I mean? And if the relationship is strained with me and my son, and because of whatever the case may be, you could be like, listen, bro, come to practice, come holler at your son. This is what's going on with him. But I think, like, a lot of us feel like we don't want to get involved in other people's business because then it can turn to so many different things. But I like what we're up against right now and what we're facing in the world. Like, I feel like we need to kind of drop our guards and step up a little bit. I know for myself personally, I know I do a lot of work and there's plenty more for me to do. You know what I mean? So I encourage other people to do it as well. I think we done got all the way away from that, football team.
But even that, shout out to Cannon, because go back to how we grew up. Not only did we have the youth centers, right? I went to the Holy Trinity that was directly across the street from my house. You would have thought I was part of that family. I went to the city mission. Talk about the experiences I was able to do going through those places. I mean, the city mission was God first. And I was able to go on camps as a kid. My mom wasn't taking me on. My dad wasn't taking me on. And those experiences, again, helped shape me who I am today. And I'm forever grateful for getting those experiences. And that's what our kids is missing today, a lot of them.
I'm glad that you said that. Even like when you talk about the exposure, again, like, because I know, like, my Aunt Gwen, she made sure we saw, I've seen HBCU. She done took us on all type of different trips on the highway. My grandfather, but then, like you say, even the community centers. The first time I left the country was with the Trinity Center. Like, we went to Toronto. I remember Mr. Sam Vaughn used to do the Boy Scouts. Our first time I ever went camping, we left the Booker T. Washington Center. We was out in the woods I think me and a couple other dudes, we got kicked out. We got sent home early because we was out there wilding. But like, that was my first experience there. Like, even seeing museums, art, and stuff like that, and understanding Black culture and understanding historical figures. Like, there was a lot of different people who were exposing me to different things. And I feel like right now we have a lot of people in the community who have reach, you know what I mean, who have intellect. We a lot of people in the community who have money, who can fund these things to where it doesn't have to be one sole person doing it.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of us need to understand that you don't always have to be the face to have an impact. Yes. What's your thoughts on that right there, as far as like people wanting to be the face of the impactful moment?
Well, that's why early on when we first started, the first thing I said was shout out to my coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't about me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm named the head football coach, but these men put in the same exact work I put in, right? So I want people to be aware of that, and I want them to know it take all of us, right? It take the community,
right?
It take a village,
right,
to save. So I think that's the same thing,
right?
And that's why I always like to shout out the coaching staff first,
because
it's bigger than us, right? And if you is that person in that position, what kind of leader would you be not to involve others and listen to their opinions, and then help. I mean, put that in with what you got going on,
right?
And this is the blueprint of what we want to do,
right?
Because, like you said earlier, you might be stronger at this suit than I am, and I might be stronger at this suit than you is. But when we could come together and put it together and lay out this foundation, it's not a question if it's going to work or not. It's going to work.
Right.
We just need to show up and continue to push our kids, motivate our kids, encourage our kids to do exactly what they need to be doing.
Absolutely. I get that. And I'm like, what you said, it takes me back to something that I say often. So I'm going to ask you this, like, what's your thoughts on self-made people, or people who say they're self-made? Like, what's your thoughts on it? Do you feel like there's a such thing as a self-made person?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Like I said, you got a lot of individuals who work hard. You got individuals who wake up 4 or 5 in the morning every day, and they're planning their day out, and they're attacking the day. And that's really what I talk to our kids about. Plan it out. Let's be goal oriented. That way we can stay on track. And as long as we got something to chase, my job is you stepping out of bounds.
Right.
Let's get back on track.
Right.
But I think we support them people more, because we need people to know it's okay to be self-made.
Right.
It's okay to work hard to get what you, once you get there. Okay. Now, what are you doing to bring the rest up?
Got you. Okay.
Okay. And that's why I say, you named me the head coach. I had a staff in mind. And each year we got better.
Right.
We sat down and put more time in.
Right.
Prior to this interview, I told you I'm coming from a staff meeting.
Right.
Football season don't start till August.
Right.
We already working.
Right.
There's no days off.
Okay, I can appreciate your perspective on that, because me, I think our opposite. I'm a type of person, again, especially when you talk about other people and you give out shout outs to so many other different people. Like, there were so many people who had a role in the man that I am today.
Yes, sir.
There were so many different people who impacted me. I mean, I know at the end of the day, I had to do the work, but had it not been for people like my grandfather, had it not been for people like Coach DePaulo, had it not been for people like, Eddie Martin, Gary Horton, Andre Horton, Larry Meredith, Jerry, like, I could name, you know what I mean? And we could do a lot of name dropping, not to exclude anybody, but I feel like, had I not had these interactions with all of these different people, I'd probably be a knucklehead. I might not make it. I have friends who have died. I have friends who have went to jail. I have friends who were in jail who might not ever come home again. And it's like, it was so many different things going on around me in my life that, had I considered myself to be self-made and just go on my own will, that I probably wouldn't be sitting in the position that I'm sitting in now, or the rooms that I'm in. But I definitely understand every single thing that you said when you talk about building up. You know what I mean? So yes, I appreciate you for that. They going crazy in the comments. There's no such thing. Terrell said there's no such thing as self-made. Okay, we got Javon said, right, good mentor. Absolutely, mentorship. So then so that when we talk about that, so mentorship. So you take over the football team. You know what I mean? And this is like, it's crazy. It was a whole mess about who was going to get the job, who wasn't going to get the job, all of this, got it, didn't get it, whatever the case may be. If you were open to doing so, like, who are some of the people that you reach out to, who you talk to, who guide you, as far as like, when you the head and you got to speak up sometimes because you got to be strong for everybody underneath you? Like, who are some of the people who kind of keep you in check?
Well, I will say this, and I got a lot of respect for this man, Javon Johnson.
Okay.
I can remember when he was first coming home, when he had the opportunity, and he would say, hey, I'm having a clinic here. If you want to learn, get up there, right? I was one of those guys going up to Mercier's when there was 4 or 5 coaches in the room listening. It wasn't that I didn't play the game. I didn't know what I know. You can always learn. You can always get better. So just having conversation with Jovan and throwing that process, a lot of people thought me and Jovan was an enemy. And I sat back and laughed because, again, this is a guy who, when he say I'm having a clinic or he's coaching things up or doing something, I'm there in support.
Right.
He's having his camp, I'm there to help. You know, so I sat back and laughed at that process. And that's why even when it was all said and done and they did award me the job, let me go back a little bit. What a lot of people don't know is the night before that, Jovan was named the head coach. I was the first person to call him and congratulate him. You know, because again, that's the role I felt we had that respect for each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, things went the way it was. But Jovan got his opportunity at Northeast, and I was coaching up at the high school. We never stopped communicating. We still was trying to come together.
Right.
So when Jovan resigned from his job prior to him taking Gannon, first thing I did was hire him on my staff.
Right.
You know,
right.
Because we talking about making an impact in our community.
Exactly.
I know I've been far. This game took me far.
Right.
Showed me a lot.
Right.
I met a lot of people.
Right.
Played under Sirianni, who just won a Super Bowl. Right.
Right.
But that man also played a lot of game.
Right.
And it took him a lot of places. Right.
Right.
So why wouldn't I want this man who pretty much came up the same way I did? Right. We both was project kids. A part of the staff. This man can save 40, 50 more lives like I can.
Right. Right.
We had enough. We had 80 kids on the team. Jovan could have brought another 25 to 30 kids off the streets to save them lives saved, right?
Absolutely.
So again, it was when I seen he was resigning and we was talking, it was simple for me.
Right.
But that is a guy right there, you know, and it mean a lot.
Okay.
It mean a lot to know that support is there. So even now we communicate. He let me know still things I didn't know from the collegiate level. Things change every day right now.
Right.
But I want to give him his flowers for
much appreciated. Shout out to Joe. Shout out to Joe. So then it was something that you said that kind of wanted. Okay, yeah. So you said we were both project kids, right?
Yes, sir.
And I love the fact that you said that, and I love the fact that you're sitting in the position you're sitting in. I love the fact that he's sitting in the position I'm sitting in. I love he's sitting in. I love the fact that I'm sitting in the position I'm sitting in. And there are so many other people. But when you say that project kids, what does that mean to you? Is that like the term for you, or is that a motivator? And what does it mean?
It's a motivator.
Okay.
It's a motivator because that's where we was born and raised. You know, I lived in projects for 14, 15 years of my life. That was all I knew. But one thing about being a project kid, you create a brotherhood with friends from the time 5, 6 years old. And you come on up with that, you know, even with the females, that's a sisterhood, brother sisterhood, you know, and it become a family.
Right.
You know, so you grow up and you build this bond and this brotherhood. And that's what helped us as we continued on in our life.
Right.
It wasn't that we were all just getting a strong Vincent. We all grew up together every day.
Right.
So the brotherhood was there.
Right. Right.
You know, the coaches had to get the hard work out of us. And growing up in the projects, you know, you already a statistic, right?
Right.
So, but do that mean that's who you're gonna be?
Right.
You know, and what Jovan showed and what I showed. You know, like I always tell kids, I'd never seen Erie County Prison, but I'm from 17th Street.
Right.
I was supposed to go to jail.
Right.
I was supposed to go downstate.
Listen.
You know, but that wasn't my path.
Right.
Because of the work I put in.
Exactly.
I knew if I keep working hard, it was gonna pay off.
Exactly.
So we kept working hard.
Right. And then, like, how important is that message for you to tell some of those young folks that you're working with, for them to understand that, like, yo, I'm from 17th Street. Like,
I love talking to them about it. You know, because again, when you having these one-on-ones, these interventions, and you hear something they say, sometimes the best response is an experience you had. And I related to an experience I had, and then the kid will look and say, "Dang, coach, dang, we went through the same thing." And then I'll say, "Well, how did I work to get to this level?"
Right.
And what makes you think you can't be the next one?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And now our interventions change each time from there, right? Because now we set goals. And now he's on a pathway to be successful.
Absolutely. So do you see that how do I pose this question? Like, do you believe that there's a value with the young people understanding that people who come from similar backgrounds as them are now in positions to where they have a say-so?
Can you repeat that?
Do you feel like it's important for, like, for instance, you saying you from the projects, you know, I lived all over Erie. So we was in the projects at one point in time. Then we lived in the scattered sites. We was in Cracker Jack houses and all of that. So, like, do you think it's important for young people to know that, yo, there are men who came from the projects who are in positions of power right now?
Yes.
Why do you think that?
Okay. When you go into a high school basketball gym
Mm-hmm.
and you see all the banners on the wall, why they hanging, right?
Mm-hmm.
We showing when you come into the stadium, you see the history of all the great athletes, pictures on the wall, right? That's why we do it. Because again, you want the youth to know you can. This could be you,
Right?
There's no limitations because you're in the projects right now,
Right?
And we talk about breaking a cycle, right?
Right.
Now you understand where you at. You understand what you need to do. Now let's work hard to break the cycle. Now your kid might not never see the project, and that was something I wanted to do, and I was focused on that. And like I said, after I graduated, and I had a child in high school. So I even talked to them about those experiences. But after I graduated, came home, me and my wife got into a house, my girlfriend at the time. One of the things for me was we ain't moving in the project. You know, because I want my kids to understand we gonna work hard for what we want, even struggling, right? But I wanted them to understand it is different.
Right.
And they never had that experience.
Okay.
So I feel like that was a cycle broken.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Shout out to you and shout out to your wife for the hard work and being the example. What do we say? Very important. They had to see physical. Yeah, absolutely. So I was asking the question is, you know, as far as like the importance of representation mattering, because like this is what through some of my own personal experiences, and I won't speak to everybody else's, and maybe you can relate, maybe you can't. But what I learned was when we come from those environments or we come from those backgrounds, as we start to level up and we start to make something of ourselves, I guess we lose our, for lack of better words, coolness. You know what I mean? Some people look at you like, no, you one of them now. You ain't who you used to be and all of that. Like, why do you think that is? Like, and then how impactful is that to you as a man? I'll speak to how it is to me, but I want to hear from you first. Like, how impactful is it to you as a man to, like, for people to be discredit where you come from because of where you are now?
I think honestly, whoever is discrediting it, they need to grow up a little bit, right? I just talked to a parent yesterday, and he had a situation with his son where him and his son got into a situation where he was fathering his son, and his son didn't want to be fathered, right? But he said, I use you as an example. I brought up you, your family, y'all background, and things y'all been through. I said, well, look at Coach Dre now. You know, so to hear that out of this man, right? He didn't grow up with me.
Right.
He knew how we grew up.
Right.
He know how his son coming up.
Right.
He said, Coach was like that.
Right.
He was making those decisions.
Right.
But then he started to get it together, right?
Right.
So to hear that man say that to me, and this was literally yesterday evening, right before I went to the Erie High basketball game, that meant a lot, right?
Right.
Because now my interventions with his son, my conversations with his son could be different.
Right.
And to be honest, I pulled him to the side today, and we talked about what me and his dad talked about. So you heard this, right?
Right.
Now let's start taking the necessary steps to change what we're doing every day.
Right. Okay.
Start making those necessary steps to change our daily routine, our daily habits.
Right.
Let's start putting the work in, because you heard it firsthand from your dad, right? And I'm gonna tell you, he wasn't lying. So how do we get back to this part?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just to have that conversation with him last night, it took me to have a conversation with his son today.
Yeah.
Give your dad a little more respect, and now let's work.
I'm glad that you mentioned that. You know what I mean? I'm glad that you mentioned that. I'm glad that you spoke to that, because, like, again, I grew up all over the city of Erie. So it was times where I was on the west side. There was times where I was down the way. It was times where I was on 24th Street. You know what I mean? But then as I progressed and as I grew, like, I worked in the prison for 7.5 years. So there was plenty of times where my friends, you a cop, all of this, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And then when I got the job at Mercyhurst, it was, you up there working with, whatever the stigmas and the stereotypes that come with it. And it kind of seemed like people were just kind of like discrediting. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing where I come from because of where I'm at. And sometimes I feel like it can have a negative impact on younger people. You know what I mean? When they're looking at people who have made something of themselves. And when I say made something of themselves, like, we're not celebrities, we're not millionaires, we're not superstars. But when we know where we came from and we know the seats that we sit in, the space that we occupy now, it's like you said, I wasn't supposed to be here, but I just got my master's degree. Like, my mom told me, if you graduate from high school, you good. You get a diploma, you good.
And
like,
that's what our parents want.
It took a football coach to tell me, you too smart for that, you going to college. Go to college, get these experience. But then it's like, it's times where it's like, why do I have to make you understand who I used to be so you can respect who I am, as opposed to just realizing and looking at me like, this dude comes from where I come from. Or even if I don't, he looks like he comes from where I come from, to where this is what I want my son to follow, as opposed to, oh, don't listen to him because he's gonna sell you out, or he gonna. So again, that's not to reiterate the question. I appreciate the answer. Yeah, Shar said the main reason for my snacking chat, they got to see what's possible. Absolutely, I agree to that. That's why I want to come back again. He said it's like being black and educated is a gift and a curse. Absolutely,
it is.
And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that, because I'll speak for myself again. I'll consider myself to be very intelligent. I know how to articulate my words. So it's like when I'm among some of my peers within the black community, it's like it's intimidating. You know it all. You act too much. But then you go in other spaces to where you the unicorn now, and it's like people, like I already tell people, I know how I look. I do not look like what I've been through,
right?
How I present, what my resume looks like. So people count me out. And then once I start talking, they looking at me and I get ostracized. And it's to the point now to where it's like, I don't fit in with the community that I come from, because I've got so smart to try to get to a place where I want to be. And then when I get in that place to where I want to be, I don't get the credit because I look like where I come from, to where I'm just stuck in the middle of a space where it's just like, I guess it's kind of like looking for acceptance or wanting to be accepted, but at the same time still doing the work, because I know what it's like to come from back there to be where I'm at today. And if I were to ever stop and to go backwards, or to hide my face, or not continue to be active in the community, I feel like it would be a disservice to a lot of young men who come from the projects, a lot of young men who come from those single parent households. Even like, again, to speak, like, I think it's important for some of the young people to know some of our struggles. There was a point in time where I thought I was a thug. You know what I mean? Like, I'm out here running the streets, trying to keep up with everything else is going on, and trying to do what everybody else is doing. And it's beef over here and it's beef over here. And now we all got to the point that we can carry guns and all of this. And it was like, I was throwing rocks. You know, I was throwing rocks, and I thought it was the cool thing to do. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like I was grown. And I shared that with some young people, because like, I don't want them to feel like this is what you have to do to be successful. But I also want them to understand that I'm not speaking at you because I've been there to where you are. You know what I mean? So like, I know I just said a lot, but even like, I guess I wanted to ask, do you speak on, and I'm sure it's on an individual level, not a group level, but has there ever been times where you had to literally sit a young man down and be like, listen, bro, let me tell you who I really am and what I've been through. You know what I mean? And why I can tell you to stop doing what you're doing. Like, and how impactful do you think that is when it's men like us who have turned our lives around for what we would consider to be better, to actually explain the mud or the mess that we were in before we got to what we look like today? Like, how important do you feel like that is?
I think it's very important, especially today, right? Because it's one high school, right? So growing up, you might have enemies, right? Where you ain't gonna never see them. You don't live in the same neighborhood. You don't go to the same school. The only time you might bump into them is at a party, right? It's different today because a lot of these kids growing up and they're finding a way to become enemies, but they all got to go to one building. You know, so that's a different type of challenge. But what I would say on a question, repeat that question.
So, like, do you feel like it's important for us as men who have these struggles to share them, like personally?
And I'm gonna tell you why, because our kids have their own experiences, right? And they don't think nobody knows. So being able to be in the building and listen to a kid talk about something that just happened that's crazy in his life, he considered this crazy, right? And he don't know who to talk to, but he might think you comfortable enough where he gonna come share this with you. And again, you listen. You want to be a listening ear first, and you listen to how deep things is. And again, if it relate to an experience you had,
right,
you have to share that experience,
right?
Because then you won't be doing the kid no justice,
right?
You know, so then it go back to your experiences. You talk about, look, man, like you said, I lost a little brother. I'm the oldest of 13, 14 kids, boys. I lost a little brother. It impacted me. It impacted the whole family. But had I made a decision to just say, you know what, we're going to get it back in blood. Me and all my brothers would be in jail. Plus the friends that hang around us, right? We don't have the same friend group. So he might have brought 3 more of his friends into something that didn't need to happen, right? So it's important these kids hear this, because now you talk life into how you handle these situations, you know?
I'm glad that you brought that up, because I mean, are you comfortable with me asking you about that since you mentioned it?
Yes.
Okay, so you had a time in your life to where it's a lot of different things going on in the city. And it's like, it's beef amongst 4 blocks of people who used to hang, or let's say 7 blocks. We'll go 17 to 24, or we'll push it to 26.
Yeah.
So we'll go 17 to 26th Street, 9 blocks of people who all were like somewhat of a family. And then some tragedy happens. And then when a tragedy happens, it's kind of like you have to pick a side. And everybody was picking their sides. And like you said, it was different we was all like sectioned off in little groups. So like, I might have been cool with you, but not so cool with your brothers. But if you caught me with your brothers, we all coming. So you were at a point in your life to where it was like, okay, I have to make a decision. Am I going to do what's right as a man, or am I going to do what's right by the streets? How tough was it for you to not take the street? Because that wasn't my brother, and it was tough for me.
Yeah.
She was not my brother, my blood brother, but it was tough for me. And when we heard the news about all of that stuff, a lot of us felt like, I'm ready to go too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then it's like, I wasn't as close as you and some of our other brothers are who were to she. But like for you, like, what was the, I don't even know how to formulate this question. Like, what was the moment or the breaking point to where you had to decide, like, I'm not going to go try to get revenge. I don't want to find out, or I'm just going to continue to be a stand-up guy. Like,
for me, it was, we lost too much. You know what I mean? For an example, we lost my cousin Rashid. I pretty much grew up with all my life. We the same exact age. He 2 months older than me. It wasn't too much she did. I wasn't too far away or right there with him, right? And that affects you. And then I lost my little brother. You know what I mean? And, you get to a point where things is happening around you, right? And you got to sit back and you got to act. You got to talk to God, right? And I was doing a lot of talking to God based on what was happening around me. And when I would ask him, put me on a pathway to be successful. I don't want to throw my life away this way. And it's tough, right? So it's real tough. So after losing brothers to victims and family members to jail, he said enough is enough.
Right.
If I don't be the one right now to say, look, this is how we gonna move, and this is across the board, we all gonna either be dead or jail.
Right.
And I was that one. I mean, not just the only one, because again, my big cousin D. Roberts was one of the first ones.
Absolutely.
Right? He was one of the first ones, and he don't get a lot of credit for becoming who he became during this time.
Right.
Because it's tough.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And we made those decisions, man. Like, look, this is what we're gonna do. This is who we're gonna become. And to watch that ripple effect, to watch the ones under us change what they was doing.
Right.
Start working. Start making impact in the community.
Right.
You see it happen.
Right.
I just wish some of the older guys who I would consider family, right? Because like you said, we talking 7 and 9 blocks.
Right.
And we all grew up together. We family. Right. I wish it was happening the same way. You know what I mean? And just because it wasn't at that time, don't mean it didn't, right?
Right.
We got Shannon back. Right. And I'm back. So we got Coach Shannon and you got Coach Henderson. We one family.
Right.
And right now we ain't thinking of none of that.
Right.
We thinking of putting plans together to change the community how it once was. But it hurt, and you get to a point where you got to say enough is enough. And if I don't be the one to step up and let all my siblings know, all my family members know, we setting ourselves up for failure.
Right.
And that's what we did.
Right.
And this is how we move it.
Okay.
And if you don't want to move that way, then now you got problems with us, right?
I can respect
that. And everybody start moving a certain way.
Right.
And here we go again. We haven't lost no more people. The ones that did go do their time and came home, they're back and they're paying it forward to our community, working, man. They want to figure out a way to help make an impact. Because again, that's who we were.
Right.
It was an unfortunate situation and we all had to go through it. And we talk about evolving.
Right.
I like to say people evolve. You know? And I think we all got to a point where we wanted to evolve and nobody wanted to take that pathway. Nobody wanted to be in the grave or nobody wanted to go visit a penitentiary.
Right.
And like I said earlier, I'm from one of the toughest parts of Erie. I've never seen Erie County Prison. So you could come up.
Absolutely.
And you could keep that, your name clean and do the right things and without the peer pressure of my friends on, you got to come with me or else this, right?
Right.
And that's what we was letting our little brothers know and our little cousins and they friends. Because again, they friend could do something that affect everybody. And we let them know how it affect everybody and how big it could become because we was living it, right?
Right.
And like I said, I love all my family members for the way we start moving.
Okay.
The men we became after going through a tough situation.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then so because I was at the city council meeting, we've been on for like an hour and 10 minutes. So, we're gonna wrap it up here shortly. But I was at a city council meeting and I spoke to that because I felt like, I wasn't as close as you were, but my life was impacted. My friends were impacted as far as like, and then it just progressed to the point to where like it's people who don't speak to me because of situations that took place back then that I was super cool with.
Yes,
You know what I
sir.
mean? Like
Yes, sir.
families got separated.
Yep.
And what I was seeing and what I was noticing when the situation took place with the young lady, Julie, I don't want to misspeak her name. I don't want to speak on her situation either.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? And then the two young boys who my nephew Tavy and all of the other guys, all of that stuff mixed up. So then when you start to see on social media, you start to see the families taking sides, or you start to see the families separating, and people start to speaking outside of the people who are actually involved. So like, I guess if we were to put forth the effort to prevent the last 10 years of hell that we had because of the whole situation to where we split into nations in the city of Erie, like, what would you say to people who could influence these young people to change their mind, as well as what would you say to some of these young people who are playing these games who are not realizing what they have? And I'm pretty sure it may sound cliche, it may not, but because you were right there and involved and impacted, like, what would your message be first to the grown people who are still holding on to these grudges?
Yep.
And then to some of these young people who still feel like this is okay to live this way? Like, what would you say to that?
To both, especially the growners, we got to be the doers, right? And I say this, we can't talk about it. We got to actually show it. And when you show it, it's a ripple effect. Things change. It's just like watching a wave in the water. It changes things, right? So show it, and then go out and speak it to people, your family, your friends, your best friend's son, you know, your long distance cousin, or a guy you know on the west side, you know, and you again speak it into them, and that's the best way to make that impact. But to allow them to go through that and look, you got that experience and not share that with them, because we talking about saving lives. You know, again, if I don't know your experience and I'm actually going through it and my mind is on get back, I need that conversation. I need to hear what you did to change, right? Because I'm straddling that line. I don't want to do this. I feel like I have to do this.
Right.
My heart ain't already in it, but I feel like, so let me touch that heart.
Right.
You don't got to do this.
Right.
Let's talk about what you should do. And again, that's why I say every day I love working with our kids, because I always tell them it ain't what happened to you. It's how you respond to what happened to you.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to get them to understand. Sometimes responding is just walking away. You know what I mean? Like, look, you got that.
Absolutely.
That didn't make me a punk.
Right. Now that's what I was going to say next to you. Like, how do you talk a kid into understanding that sometimes the best decision that they could have made was walking away, and they still ain't no punk for that?
Man, again, through experiences, right? I could talk about a situation where, you know, maybe I was the one that left, and my friends still went on and did what they was going to do. And then what consequences they had to pay. You know, it wasn't just go home and lay down and get up and we running like we was.
Right.
I lost them.
Right.
And I ain't saying to death, but I might have lost them to jail.
Right.
That's 5, 6, 10 years of friendship.
Right.
That's tough. That could put strains on friendships, and you know, people go different ways, but you got to talk about it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because again, my experience might be exactly what you're going through. You can't get that from somebody and then it changed your way of thinking.
Right.
And that's why I think it's good to talk to people and let them know, look, it's okay to make this decision.
Right.
Because it's going to put you, again, it's going to save you, right? You ain't got to worry about things you would have, you know, had you made that decision. And again, we talk to our kids about that daily. I talked to my boy, Tavy, you know, that's an unfortunate situation. But he was just sitting with a college coach. And prior to him school ending, the coach had him thinking deep. And the conversation messed him up to the point was like, dang, coach, I ain't even know this. You know, and he just spilling college life into him. And it left him in deep thought. Now, the decision I wish he would have made from talking to that coach is, let me go downstairs and beat these weights up. You know, but it's an unfortunate situation and things happen, you know, but who the kid really is. Right. It's a 3.0 student.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who don't have behaviors.
Right.
Who don't have issues, who's not cutting class, right? Just an unfortunate situation where we weren't strong enough to make the decision that was on our heart.
Right.
He knew he shouldn't have got in the car.
Right.
But peer pressure.
Absolutely.
I don't want to be a chump tomorrow. You know what I mean? Put him in the car. And I know, and I spoke to him, and I know he regretted, and I wish he could take that day back. the minutes back after school. You know?
Right.
But again, once we make that decision, we got to live with the consequences.
Right.
But one thing I could say is he'll have an opportunity to come out and save lives.
Absolutely.
He'll have an opportunity to tell his story.
Right.
And again, save a kid that's straddling that fence because it don't stop, you know? So talk to the kids about your experience, especially if it's very similar to what you had, because you could talk them off the ledge.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, man, like I appreciate the conversation, and I feel like, especially when we talking about dealing with some of the issues with the youth, I feel like you would probably be one of the most important people to speak to, with you working in a high school, you know what I mean, where the majority of the kids are, and then on top of that, with you being the football coach. I'm not asking you to confirm this, but what I will tell you is I feel like you don't receive the support that you should from the city. I feel like you don't receive the support that you should from some of the men in the community who benefited from some of the same services that we benefited from.
Yes, sir.
I feel like the stands aren't loud enough. I feel like it's not enough purple and gold in this city. I feel like it's not enough Let's Go Royals. I feel like we need to know who our star athletes are on that team. So my question to you is, what do you need from us to make you feel like you have the city's support? Not to discredit the people who already have your back, because I can see you have a lot of support. And it's a lot of people who speak highly of you. But like, as far as the people who aren't there, who aren't showing up, even if it's a simple share, if it's a donation, if it's a come to a game, if it's high-fiving a kid, like, what are some things specifically from I don't want to assume Dre needs this, Dre needs more. I want to hear right from your mouth. How can we support you more? What do you feel will help you benefit?
You know what? And it's a little off subject, but this is what I say. Because I said to the staff, we got to keep working.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to come,
mm-hmm.
you know, with success.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to continue to pour into our kids.
Mm-hmm.
In exchange, we'll get more wins
mm-hmm.
as a team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once the wins come, everybody who's not in full support of us right now will be in full support.
Mm-hmm.
So I just tell, you know, the staff and the kids, we got to keep working.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to come.
Right.
We lived it.
Right.
We experienced it. So I don't look at it as really like who we need to talk to get the support.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to the kids about what we need to do to get the support.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So that's what I said. And I feel like like I said, my sport is community advocacy.
Yes, sir.
So my question to you is, like, how can I rally the troops to get behind you? Like, you know, I ain't got no problem coming to the game, come to the locker room. I done argue with you about, you know what I mean, about the stuff. I done came to the school. I feel like I do all kind of different stuff, and I ain't got no problem knocking on doors and telling people, yo, let's go to the game. But like, I don't want to overstep my boundaries when it comes to what you have going on within your position. So that's why I asked you the question, because in my opinion, I'm not in the locker room. You know what I mean? I'm not in the school. I feel as though, based on the things that I see from the outside looking in, that we as a city, we as men, we as them as women, you don't receive the support that you should. As if Cathedral Prep was Erie High, or if McDowell was Erie High, you would get way more support. Right. If this was a smaller city, like somewhere like Meadville, where they only have one team, you would get more support. Yeah. How do we turn our city into we support Erie, and not just football? So what do you need?
I think this, because again, right now, one of our biggest issues per football team is not even academics, right? Mm-hmm. It's making sure our kids is eating and staying out of trouble.
Okay.
So the support we need right now from the city and the community is we need all the fathers, all the uncles, all the cousins to pour into our kids more. When you see them, talk life into them. Mm-hmm. Give them a hug. Mm-hmm. Let them know you love them. Mm-hmm. Keep doing what you're doing. I think that support right there is where we need to start at. Mm-hmm. And I think once our kids, right, see that, start feeling that, things change. So I would ask, the support that we're looking for right now is, if you're an uncle and you're a father and you got a family member that go to Erie High School, or just a youth, a teenager growing up in the inner city, talk life into them. Mm-hmm. And what we asking our kids to do in the support, it would change everything. And that's all we asking. So if you're a community leader, if you work at one of the, JFK, the Booker T, open your doors more. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Let our youth get in there more and use that as a tool to talk life into them. And then let them have their fun. If you on the block all day, mm-hmm. and some kids you could reach, mm-hmm. talk life into them.
Thank you for saying that.
Eventually, you're going to get them to come do what they should be doing, right? It might not be today. It might not be tomorrow, but the consistency is what we're looking for.
Right.
And if we consistently find a way to talk him to getting off this quarter, to go to school, to really start putting the effort in, it's going to change. And the second that change, everything changes.
I'm glad you said. I wanted to wrap up there, but now I got one more question just because you said that. When you say been on the block all day, right? We don't have to go into like what that means or what that entails, but I remember when I was younger, there were people who really didn't want to be seen, didn't want to be heard, but I knew that they had my back and I knew that they had their support. So if we could say to the people who we know who play the block, like what we have our expectations for them as far as like how they can have an impact, because I remember it was dudes buying cleats, mouthpieces, water bottles, you know what I mean, whatever the case may be, and don't tell nobody or whatever the case may be. Like, what would you encourage the people who don't want to be actively involved as far as like the face because they may have some other things going on, but you also know that they can have an impact? Like, what would you say to those guys who play the block and how they can support you without putting themselves out there?
I would say, and I don't want to bring this name up again, right? But I would say, do what Roosevelt Benjamin did. He was in his neighborhood. He's seen a couple of troubled kids who he said, you know what? I need to try to save their life. And I need you to be that guy.
Right.
So whether you're on the lower west side, the higher west side, you know, the lower east side, the higher east side, in the Terrace, in the Harley, we got leaders in every neighborhood, and we know them leaders. All I'm asking you is to talk life into our kids.
Okay.
Let's tell them to pick them guns down, pick them books up, and let's become who we supposed to become.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, man. Again, like I said, you keep bringing questions out of me. I ain't gonna ask you no more questions, but I'm gonna give you the opportunity. You can, you know what I mean? If you got anything you want to say, anybody you want to shout out, anything new that you're working on, or any businesses you want to shout out, feel free to take the last however long you need it. It's all on you from here. I ain't got no more questions. I'm here to listen and read through these comments.
Again, right now, what we doing with our program, you know, we working out. We got staff members taking our kids and parents. Shout out to the parents that's driving down to Pittsburgh every week. But we trying our best to show our kids something different. You know, and again, we taking them to see kids that got a very similar background, right? And my question to the kids back on the way home or to the facility is, what was different? Why is he working so much harder to get out of the environment that you in? Right? So getting them to see that, change their mindset. When they get back now, it's like, you know what, coach, I got you. I ain't missing no more work, no more assignments. You know, I ain't cutting class no more, which, you know, that's still an issue, but I ain't cutting class no more, right? For them to see something different, but it looks so much like them. And I'm talking size and everything. And again, why do this kid got 15 offers?
Right.
We don't got none, right? So then let's start doing something different. And that's it, man. And and it ain't done. We got our bigs going down now, and in another month and a half, we're gonna have our skill guys going.
Okay.
And again, you going down in this Whippio and you competing with 500-600 Whippio kids,
right?
Homewood kids,
right?
Braddock kids, you know, Penn Hills kids. It create a different mindset. So when you get back around here, your competition level is at all-time high,
right?
And it ain't no plays off,
right?
And that's what we're trying to get them to understand. There's no plays off. You got to be smart enough to play the next play. And you got to take that mentality into your day-to-day routines. There's no days off.
Right.
I can't miss school. I got things I need to do, you know?
Okay.
And I talk to them about that, and I always tell the kids this, because this will help me get through college. Get you a Post-it and write down a list of things you need to do daily. And before you lay down, if you ain't crossed everything off that list, you shouldn't be going to sleep.
Get up
and get it done. And that's what I'm putting in our kids' heads. So if you missed the weight room at the school workout, get the Coach Lump gym, put the work in. There's no excuse on why you shouldn't still be going to work out, right?
And he opened the door for them.
He opened the door.
Okay.
I mean, same with Steve Spearman, right?
And he opened the door for
you
them.
Go to Steve gym. The door is wide open.
Okay.
And that's a guy who trained me. You know, so we send our kids there too. We got kids who go work out down there too, but there's no excuse for you not to put the work in.
Right.
And again, we talking consistency. So it matters what you do daily. And if you think I could go Monday, Tuesday, put the work in, Wednesday, I'm done, I'm chilling, Thursday, I'm chilling, it's not going to help you become who you want to become.
Right.
And that's what we remind them. It's a daily grind. Even when you don't feel like it, right? Get up and go do it. And again, they know, because of me, coach worked third shift, coach worked first shift. Sometimes coach get no sleep. I don't complain. I don't say I'm too tired to get on this building to work with these kids right now. I go do it. And when they see that, and they know it, you know, I'm up all night watching film, you know, coaching y'all up, get 2-3 hours with my family before I'm back to try to, they see that hard work. And again, I'm in hopes of it changing a few of their minds to again, if coach could do it, I could do it. There's no excuse. He ain't sleeping too much. He ain't complaining too much.
Right.
He's showing us daily by putting the work in.
Right.
And then we say, well, you start paying it forward.
Right.
You start reciprocating it. Because we'll go over and beyond for you. We need you to go over and beyond for us. And that's just doing what you need to be doing. In the classroom, on the field, hard work, whether it's weightlifting, whether it's speed training, plyometrics, just putting that work in to better yourself.
Absolutely, man. Listen, I appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate you sharing everything that you shared. And then even based on the things that you said to me, now I need to see you more active on social media. I know social media ain't your thing, and we didn't butt heads about this, but like all the stuff that you got going on, the culture that you're trying to build and what you're trying to bring to the Erie High Royals football team and to the school needs to be spoke about. One last question before I go. Who do you think should be my next guest on? I feel like you kickstarted this. I've been here just playing in the studio, just trying to test and see if I can get back going. And I got Joe Jones on he's on the list. So
you know what, Joe Jones, that'd be a great candidate because again,
he came on here the first time I ran it around. He came on and I reached out to him earlier. I talked to him. He said he's gonna let me know by Friday. But so Joe's already on my radar. I got a couple other guys, but I want to hear a name from you that I didn't say. Who do you think I should?
What? My football staff.
Okay.
Coach Woodard.
Okay.
A guy who went to Clarion, who was coaching at Clarion, and was recruiting our kids.
Okay.
So when he had the opportunity to come back home, and I said, "Oh, we got to steal that right now. Why would we let this sit around?" Or, Coach Carson.
Okay.
His background.
Okay.
Cathedral prep grad.
Okay.
Big 33 game.
Yep.
And went Division II.
Right.
A lot of people think, you graduate from prep, you got to go Division I.
Right.
Well, here's one of my best friends graduated from prep, played in the Big 33 and landed too. So it ain't always what you think is how it's going to play out.
Right.
But the staff and what they pour into.
Okay.
Coach Mike Darnell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Man,
he's been doing it for a long time.
Listen, man, I don't think I can get him on here. But I'm gonna make sure you let them coaches know, man. I'm gonna reach out to them, be in touch, and let them know that you put their name out there. So when I do reach out,
but also some of them neighborhood leaders, right? Some of the guys that
say their names so they don't think I'm just coming at them. Who you talking about?
I'll say it like I said. You got Little John on the west side.
Little John Blanks.
You got
Ro Benjamin.
You got Jamil Lindsay. You got D Jones. West side, upper west side.
Okay.
Pour life into these kids. Right. You got multiple people.
Right.
You got some guys, Ralph Paisley, I'm gonna bring his name up. Who've been a youth coach in our area for how long, right?
Yeah.
He could be one. He got kids who's actively playing. He got a son who just graduated with us. A rider.
Yeah.
Who's gonna go on and continue, further his education and continue his career. But we got guys who maybe we need to get on this platform and talk about some of these same things, and then talk about pin it all together.
Right.
And how could we fail our kids if this is what we do?
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. I agree, man. Thank you for your time. I appreciate all the questions, everybody who watched, all the comments. I was reading the comments, trying to put loves on all the comments. I was speaking to some of the comments that did come in. If I missed anybody, it was not intentional. I'm gonna let Coach Dre get out of here. Y'all heard him just say he worked first, second, third, and fourth shift, so he probably needs some sleep. If you got any questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you got any questions for Dre, I'm pretty sure he's open and available to answer some questions. For the people whose names that was said, just be on the lookout because I will be sending you a message. Any other men, when you see my name pop up in your inbox, know what I want. Do not ignore me. We got work to do, plenty of work.
And I will say this before I get off. Thanks for having me again. And we go way back. But to the men that watch this, it's time to make an impact. We tired of seeing what we've been seeing. We all lived it. We all been through it. We can't allow our youth to have those same experiences without trying to change their mindset. So let's do what we need to do to change the impact in our community or make the impact in our community.
Absolutely. We got work to do, fellas. Y'all have a good night. We're gonna be back. I'm gonna be back. We got it rolling now.